Too quiet. I stood there in the dimly lit living room, phone clutched in my hand. My mind had been at war for weeks, no months. Camille, my wife, had been different, distant. Her warmth, once radiating effortlessly, had turned cold. She tried to hide it, but I knew. Deep down, I'd known for a while, but I kept fooling myself into believing nothing was wrong. Until today. The name on that contact list confirmed everything. One glance at that unfamiliar number was all it took to make the dam inside me finally break. Her lover. My fingers dialed before my mind could catch up. It wasn't Camille who needed to hear my voice first, it was him. He needed to know. He needed to be the one to destroy everything she'd tried to keep hidden. I didn't need to scream or rage. That wasn't the plan. The phone rang, echoing in the silence of the room, each tone a punch to my gut. It clicked, then a hesitant hello. I smiled bitterly. Tell her that I'm divorcing her. My voice, cold as ice, left no room for questions. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for a few unbearable seconds. I could hear him breathing, stunned into silence by my words. The weight of what I'd just said must have hit him like a sledgehammer. I wanted to hear shock, feel his confusion. It was the least he deserved. Double what? He finally stammered, his voice shaky, unsure. That was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. I pictured his face pale, nervous, the blood draining from it. He had no idea who I was. He thought he was safe. But that false security was crumbling around him now. I took a slow breath, letting the tension hang thick in the air between us. You heard me, I said, my tone even colder than before. Tell Camille I'm divorcing her. I could hear him swallow. The guy was scrambling, trying to understand who I was, but too afraid to ask. He didn't know what to say. The silence that followed was suffocating, and I reveled in it. My heart pounded in my chest, but my hands were steady. This was my way of regaining control. Not screaming at Camille, not fighting with her. No, this was better. I wanted the destruction to start from the outside, burn its way inward. Who is this? He finally asked, his voice quieter now, as if speaking too loudly might set off some unseen bomb. A sharp, humorless laugh escaped me. It doesn't matter who I am. Just know that the little secret you and Camille thought you were hiding, it's out now. And I'm letting you be the messenger. I could practically feel him squirming on the other end of the line. The power in this moment felt intoxicating, the kind of satisfaction I'd been craving for months. You think you're special, don't you? I continued, my voice dripping with bitterness. Sneaking around behind my back, thinking she'll leave me for you. Here's the truth, you're nothing to her. The distraction. A fun little escape from the real world. But guess what? You're about to become the reason her whole life falls apart. He didn't respond, but I could hear his shaky breaths. Maybe he hadn't expected this. He probably thought he was just part of some little fling, nothing serious. That she was just playing the bored housewife, getting her kicks before going back to her life. He was in over his head now? Look, he finally said, trying to regain some composure. I don't know what you're talking about, but maybe you should just. I cut him off before he could finish. Save it. I don't need your lies. I just need you to pass on the message. Tell her I'm done. Tell her that she can crawl back to you if she wants, but by the time she does, she'll have nothing left. You think you want her? Good luck. You'll need it. I hung up before he could respond. The sharp beep of the call ending left me standing in the dark room, my hand still gripping the phone tightly. My heart pounded, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was anger, cold, calculated anger. In the other room, Camille was probably still watching TV, oblivious to the bomb I'd just set off. That's what I wanted. I wanted her to feel safe, to have no idea that the foundation of her life was already crumbling beneath her feet. She would hear it from him, her lover, not from me. It would catch her off guard, shatter her perfect little fantasy. I let the phone fall to my side and took a deep breath. Satisfaction flooded through me. I wasn't sure how it would all play out, but I knew one thing for sure, her world was about to collapse. And I wouldn't have to lift another finger. The destruction would spread on its own. I could already picture it, her initial confusion, thinking maybe it was some kind of sick joke or misunderstanding. Camille would probably laugh at first, dismissing it with a casual wave of her hand. What are you talking about? She'd ask, her voice light, thinking this was just a mistake, that somehow her little secret was still safe. But then, slowly, piece by piece, the truth would begin to sink in. I imagined her standing in the bedroom, her phone in one hand, her face tightening with worry. She'd press the phone to her ear, listening as her lover's voice, usually so cocky and sure, began to tremble. Camille, it's not a joke. He knows. He called me. He said he's divorcing you. There would be a long, stunned silence on her end as those words crashed into her like a wave that knocked the breath right out of her chest. I pictured the way her heart would race, her mind scrambling for answers for some way out of this mess. But there wouldn't be one. No excuses. No easy lies. I had made sure of that. The cold realization would hit her all at once. Her perfect little world, the one she'd so carefully built with me on one side and him on the other, was crumbling, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. I could almost hear her footsteps now, pacing the bedroom, her breath quickening, her hands shaking as she tried to make sense of it all. She would press her lover for details. What exactly did he say? She'd demand, her voice now tinged with fear. He'd stammer through his response, repeating my words in a way that would make everything seem even worse. He told me to tell you he's divorcing you. He said he's done, Camille. I don't know what to do. And that would be the moment, the exact moment when Camille would feel the ground give way beneath her. The panic would set in hard and fast, her mind spinning out of control as she realized that everything was slipping away. I could picture her running to the mirror, staring at herself, as if searching for some sign that this was all a nightmare, something she could wake up from. But there'd be no waking from this. It was real. Her lover, he wouldn't have answers. He would be as lost and terrified as she was, his bravado shattered by the sheer weight of what had just happened. He might even start to regret ever getting involved with her, seeing how quickly things had spiraled out of control. And that's what I was counting on, that fear, that regret. I wanted them both to feel it, to feel what I'd been carrying inside for months. Meanwhile, I'd be here waiting. I didn't need to hear her pleas or see her tears. I didn't need to be there when she collapsed under the weight of her lies. That wasn't my role anymore. I had set the fire, and now I was content to watch it burn from a distance. The drink in my hand was now warm to touch for too long, so I set it down on the counter. Outside, the street was still quiet, the night dragging on in its eerie calm. But inside, I knew chaos was unfolding. My heart pounded in rhythm with the growing storm in Camille's world, the storm I had created. The best part, she had no idea it was coming. At that very moment, maybe she was dialing his number again, desperately trying to reach him to make sense of what was happening. Or maybe she was pacing the floor, debating whether to confront me, unsure if she had the courage. Either way, it didn't matter. The ball was in her court now. I was done playing. I leaned back against the counter, a faint smile tugging at my lips. Soon she would understand. Soon everything would come crashing down around her. And for the first time in months, I felt a strange, almost peaceful sense of satisfaction. As the minutes ticked by, I could almost feel the tension building in the house. Camille still hadn't come out of the bedroom, and I knew that the bomb I'd dropped was probably detonating inside her mind. Her phone would be buzzing with frantic texts, desperate calls from her lover, trying to explain to fix the mess I had created with just a few words. She'd be staring at the screen, trying to make sense of it all. Maybe she hadn't answered yet. Maybe she was too stunned, trying to gather her thoughts, trying to figure out how to spin this before facing me. The house felt too quiet, too still, like everything was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable fallout. I glanced at the clock. It was late past midnight, and the shadows in the room seemed to stretch longer, darker. The drink I had poured earlier sat untouched on the counter. I didn't need it any more. The satisfaction of what I'd set in motion was enough to keep me steady. The thought of Camille, alone in that room, her heart pounding, her mind racing, brought a strange cold comfort. She'd thought she had been so clever, so careful. She had no idea that I'd been watching, waiting, piecing everything together while she played her little games. It was almost laughable how confident she must have felt, thinking I was too busy, too trusting to notice. But now the mask was off. I had exposed her, not with a screaming confrontation or violent outburst, but with something far more devastating: cold calculation. Camille thrived on control, on keeping everything perfectly managed, like pieces on a chessboard. I had taken that away from her in the most ruthless way possible, by making sure she never saw it coming. I walked over to the window again, staring out at the dark street. The silence was starting to feel heavier, like the house itself was waiting for Camille to make her move. I wondered what she would do next. Would she come out, try to confront me with some half-baked excuse, hoping I'd fall for her lies again? Or would she stay in that room, too afraid to face the reality of what had just happened? I almost wanted her to come out, to see her face, to watch her scramble for words, trying to lie her way out of the hole she'd dug for herself. But I wasn't sure if she had the courage. She'd been caught red-handed and there was no going back. Even if she somehow thought she could manipulate me into forgiving her, it was too late. The damage was done. A faint sound caught my attention, the quiet creak of the bedroom door opening. My pulse quickened. She was coming. I heard her footsteps in the hallway, hesitant like she was testing the ground with every step. I didn't turn around. I let the anticipation build, the tension in the air thickening as she got closer. Finally, she stopped, standing behind me in the kitchen. I could feel her presence, her breath barely audible as she tried to gather herself. "Max," her voice was shaky, unsure. It was the first time in months I had heard her sound anything but confident. I didn't respond right away. I wanted her to stew in that uncertainty, to feel the weight of my silence. "Max," she said again, a little louder this time, but still fragile, almost pleading. I could hear the fear creeping into her tone, the fear that I wasn't the same husband she had always controlled. Slowly, I turned to face her. Her eyes were wide, searching my face for any sign of what I was thinking. But I gave her nothing. I just stood there, watching her, waiting. This was her move now. And I wasn't going to make it easy. The game had changed, and for the first time, she wasn't the one in control. Camille looked at me, her lip trembling slightly, her eyes flicking to the floor. What's going on?" she finally asked, though we both knew she already had her answer. But I wasn't about to make it easy for her. Not anymore. Camille's eyes darted between mine and the floor, her hands wringing nervously at her sides. She looked so small standing there, as if she had been stripped of the confidence that had once defined her. The silence between us was heavy, like a thick fog filling the space, suffocating whatever words she might have been hoping to say. But she wasn't going to talk her way out of this. Not this time. I took a step forward, not breaking eye contact. "What's going on?" I repeated her question back to her, my voice deliberately calm, though the tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Camille swallowed hard, her breath catching in her throat. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came. It was clear she was scrambling, her mind racing for any lie, any excuse that might save her. But there was nothing left to save. I didn't give her the satisfaction of a response. Instead, I turned and walked to the living room, leaving her standing in the kitchen. My footsteps echoed in the empty silence of the house, and I could feel her eyes on my back, watching me, waiting. She wasn't used to this version of me, the one who wasn't playing along with her games anymore. She didn't know how to handle it, and that made me smile. She followed me, hesitating at the edge of the living room, as if crossing that threshold would seal her fate. "Max, please, just talk to me," she finally whispered, her voice breaking. There it was. The fear. She was finally starting to realize how serious this was. I could hear it in her tone, see it in the way her shoulders slumped forward. I sat down on the couch, leaning back, watching her as she stood awkwardly by the doorway. She didn't know what to do with herself, didn't know where to stand, what to say. This was all so new for her. She'd always been the one in control, pulling the strings, manipulating the situation to fit her narrative. But now she was powerless. "Tell me something," I said, my voice steady, almost casual. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Her face drained of color. Camille's lips parted as if to respond, but no words came out. Her silence was more damning than any confession could have been. She tried to speak again, her hand shaking now, but I wasn't in the mood for her lies. I raised a hand to stop her, the motion cutting through the air like a blade. "Don't," I said firmly. "I already know everything." Her eyes widened in panic. She stepped forward, her desperation palpable. "Max, I know," I repeated, cutting her off. "I know about him. I know about your little affair. I know how long it's been going on. I know everything." The truth hit her like a slap in the face. She froze, staring at me, her expression shifting between fear and disbelief. She had never imagined that I'd catch her, let alone confront her like this. Camille was always so careful, so meticulous in covering her tracks. She had underestimated me. "I don't," she stammered, struggling to find her footing. "I don't know what you think you know, but—" "Stop," I snapped, my voice harsher now. "Just stop. I've given you a chance to tell me the truth, but you can't even do that, can you?" I stood up, towering over her now, watching the tears pool in her eyes. "You've been lying to me for months. You thought you could have your fun and I'd be too stupid or too busy to notice." "Max, I swear it wasn't like that," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "Enough," I barked, cutting her off once again. "I'm done, Camille. I'm done with the lies. I'm done with you." She crumpled under the weight of my words, her whole body sagging as if the strength had been knocked out of her. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible now. "Please don't do this." But I just stared at her, unmoved, as the silence swallowed her pleas. She had played her last card, and it had failed. Now all that was left was the wreckage. Camille stood there, a hollow shell of the woman I once thought I knew. The tears in her eyes were no longer held back. They spilled down her cheeks in quiet streaks, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her. She had destroyed that part of me long before this moment. As she stared at me, her lips quivering as if to form more excuses, I felt an odd sense of detachment. It was like watching someone else's life fall apart from behind a glass wall, silent, distant, untouchable. I turned away from her and began pacing the room, every step measured, calculated. I began, my voice low but unwavering. I really thought I knew you, Camille. I thought we had something real. My words cut through the air like a knife, sharper than any physical blow could ever be. She flinched as though my calmness hurt more than any yelling or anger ever would. Max, please. Her voice was barely a whisper now, broken and pleading. She stepped forward, reaching out, her fingers trembling as they moved toward me. I stopped pacing and looked down at her outstretched hand, watching it hover in the space between us, as if she was afraid to bridge the gap. For a moment I let the silence stretch, let her feel the weight of what she had done. Then I shook my head and stepped back, making it clear that the distance between us was unbreachable now. Don't! The word fell from my lips like a command, and she recoiled, her hand dropping limply to her side. You don't get to touch me, not after everything. Her knees seemed to buckle slightly, but she caught herself on the edge of the couch. Max, I'm sorry, she choked out, her voice thick with sobs. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I never meant for it to go this far. I laughed, the sound bitter and cold. Wasn't supposed to go this far? What did you think was going to happen, Camille? Did you think you could just keep this going, keep sneaking around behind my back, and I'd never find out? That I'd be the oblivious husband forever? She shook her head, her tears flowing more freely now. No, she stopped, struggling to find the words. It was a mistake, Max, I swear. A mistake? I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Right, you didn't accidentally fall into someone else's bed, Camille. This wasn't a one-time thing. You made choice after choice. You knew exactly what you were doing. Her sobs grew louder, her shoulders shaking as she covered her face with her hands. But I wasn't moved. I had given her so many chances, ignored so many signs. And now there was nothing left to say. The anger that had fueled me for so long had burned out, leaving behind only cold resolve. I don't care about your apologies, I said, my voice flat. I don't care about your excuses. You destroyed us, Camille. You and no one else. I paused, letting the truth sink in, watching as she crumbled under the weight of her guilt. I'm done. She lowered her hands, her eyes wide and desperate, as she tried to take a step toward me. Please, Max, she begged, her voice shaking. We can fix this. I'll end it. I'll do anything. Just don't leave me. I stared at her, unmoved. It's too late for that. You ended us the moment you chose him. Her sobs became desperate, her entire body trembling as she tried to reach me again. Max, I love you. I never stopped loving you. Please, we can get through this. Don't throw everything away. I shook my head slowly. No, Camille, you threw everything away. The finality of my words hit her like a blow. She slumped onto the couch, burying her face in her hands, her sobs the only sound filling the room. But I felt nothing. Whatever love we once had was gone, buried beneath the lies and betrayal. I turned away from her, heading for the door. I didn't need to see her collapse any further. The destruction was complete. I had no reason to stay. Without looking back, I stepped out of the room, out of the house that had once been our home, and into the cold night air. There was nothing left to say. The cool night air hit me like a slap in the face as I stepped outside the door to our no, my house closing softly behind me. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. There was no more anger bubbling beneath the surface, no more doubt gnawing at the edges of my mind. I had said everything that needed to be said, and I was done. The silence outside was a stark contrast to the chaos inside, to Camille's sobs echoing through the walls. But those sobs weren't mine to fix anymore. I paused for a moment on the front steps, looking up at the dark sky, feeling the weight of everything lift off my shoulders. The stars were barely visible, hidden behind clouds, but I didn't need them tonight. I didn't need anything. For so long I had been trapped in a cycle of suspicion and pain, always wondering, always waiting for the truth to surface. And now that it had, the relief was almost overwhelming. The neighborhood was still, as if the world hadn't noticed that my entire life had just imploded. It felt surreal. How could everything around me seem so normal when nothing in my life was anymore? I took a deep breath, the cold air filling my lungs, grounding me in this new reality. I made my way to the car, each step feeling lighter than the last. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't avoiding the inevitable. I had faced it head on, and now it was time to move forward. The car door creaked as I opened it, the sound loud in the quiet night. I sat behind the wheel, staring at the house for a few seconds, knowing it would never be the same place again. I could picture Camille inside, still sitting on the couch, broken and sobbing. She would try to call me. She would beg for another chance, plead with me to come back. But I wouldn't answer. I had made my decision. There was no going back. I started the car, the engine's low hum cutting through the silence. As I backed out of the driveway, I glanced at the dark windows one last time. The life we had built together, the marriage I had once believed in, it was all behind me now. I wasn't leaving behind a home. I was leaving behind the wreckage of a lie. The road stretched out before me, long and empty, the headlights casting shadows on the asphalt. It felt like freedom, like stepping into the unknown with nothing but open space ahead. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel afraid. As I drove, the memories of Camille and our life together flashed in my mind like fleeting images, but they didn't hurt like they used to. They were just that now, memories. I wasn't shackled to them anymore. I wasn't bound by the weight of betrayal. I was free. The further I got from the house, the clearer my mind became. I didn't know where I was going, not exactly, but I knew it didn't matter. What mattered was that I was done being the fool. I was done holding on to something that had been broken long before I ever realized it. The open road called to me, offering a fresh start, a new beginning, free from the lies and deceit. There would be no more pretending, no more second-guessing. I had made my choice. I was moving forward, and I wasn't looking back. As the miles slipped by, I felt a strange kind of peace settle over me. The weight of the past, of Camille's betrayal, was fading into the background, becoming nothing more than a chapter one had finally closed. The future stretched out before me, uncertain but full of possibility. And for the first time in a long time, that didn't scare me. I drove into the night, leaving behind the pain, the lies, and the woman who had thought she could keep me in the dark forever. But I wasn't in the dark anymore. I had found my way out, and now I was free.